Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Feedback Friday, Art Edition. I'm your host, Jacob Johnson. How's everybody doing? Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So, as it has been the past two streams, today, yet another short stream. For whatever reason, we like to apparently schedule meetings on the Fridays that I have streams. To be fair, it's just that because of working remotely, we've had to do a lot more kind of like team meets to kind of like keep coordinated. And we have like big stuff we're kind of going over for the HUD design today. So I need to be a part of that. But that said, I also need to get some more kind of like drawings done for the meeting itself. So against my better judgment, I am going to work on HUD stuff with you today briefly. But basically the plan is gonna work until lunch. Then I'll take my lunch, then it's meeting time. So same times kind of like as the last stream we had. And then next week should be Dave. Week after that, I might have a full day stream. We'll see. So yeah, that's the plan. So basically what I'm working on right now is a kind of like mock-up of what part of the interface could look like. So keep that in mind when you see it. It's very much a kind of like this is just an example of what it could be. So it doesn't mean that what you see is what we're going to get. So yeah, I think I'll just kind of dive right in because there's a bunch of stuff I want to try and get done before the meeting. And figure that hopefully we can do all of it. We'll see. All right, sorry, I'm just gonna making sure everything is caught up. Hello, hello. Oh, people were waving at you, Alex. Oh, hi. Alex says, "Oh, hi." All right. So let me switch my camera. Hey, okay, my camera is actually active. I think it was disabled the last time because my camera like froze, so I just unplugged it and hid the frozen video. Hopefully all that weird kind of like camera badness is dealt with. So what we see here is a concept for kind of like one of the actual islands, and it's effectively kind of like displaying activities that you can kind of do at the island. So yeah, there's some stuff to kind of suss out, but I'm not going to go into any specifics, although we have lots of kind of like, you know, what everything does in our own kind of like space. We're gonna save that, so you can speculate, but you know, just don't kind of like expect, you know, X, Y, Z, and then be upset if it doesn't deliver on your expectations. But that said, it should be pretty exciting and fun. Hello, hello to Israel. All right. So basically, what I'm trying to convey in these concepts is showing kind of like a variety of potential kind of visuals of what the islands could look like depending on scenarios. So right now, this is kind of like a physical island, is the idea, one of the floating islands. And then I'm going to try and kind of show another kind of power type or two. I actually have early sketches of different power types, but they're not kind of laid out to this kind of paper doll setup that I've got going. Basically, there's kind of like a certain number of elements and certain configurations that I need to try and kind of like make everything fit on while it still reads well, and it's probably going to be viewed pretty small. So I want it to read from kind of like, you know, shrunk down. It's just going to be kind of a small element in the HUD. Depending on what part of the HUD you're in, though, it might be a little bit bigger. Maybe you can click to like view the art. Who knows? You know, that's not anything set in stone either. But yeah, the idea is that, let's see, like, for example, this is kind of like the early draconic island sketch that I had. And basically, I made a bunch of these for the prototype, so they're all kind of just like really quick and messy. So here's like hydro, that's the law. Physical, I did adapt already. And then like the shadow. And basically, I want to try and kind of like capture a unique, fun look for each of them that feels like the power type, but each of the elements can kind of sit comfortably with it. So I think that it's definitely a challenge, but I think it'll be worth kind of like exploring to the potential. Yeah, that said, I need to just kind of like get cracking on this because I only have a few hours to get what I want completed to try and basically sell this idea to the team. Because otherwise it might be a case of, okay, well, we'll just kind of like create pretty cool looking islands, but it won't necessarily have the kind of like elements sitting on top. So, you know, like this thing is kind of like could show up or not. This might kind of show up in different varieties. So I'm trying to figure out that. That's one of the things I've been kind of like struggling with, because I want each of the elements to be like clear and readable at a glance. It's not the end of the world if it's not, because there's kind of other areas that you'll get to interface with those, and you'll have that information available. You're not relying on looking at this tiny image to kind of suss out exactly what exists. But I want it to look good and read well, just because that's always kind of good to have. And then there's kind of like another one that could show up, like maybe it's like really big and there's a lot of this thing there, or just a tiny amount, or like none at all. So that's all kind of get into with that. There's definitely lots to kind of figure out on our end still. So we don't want to kind of like be like, this is exactly what you need to expect, because it could all change. But so far so good. Like I believe Giorgio's plugging in kind of like the actual like architecture for the game design. Dave's been kind of like creating all of the kind of like outlines for what needs to get completed where and when. And the art team this week, we've been kind of like digging into the HUD stuff more, and have a nice meeting today where we're going to kind of firm up a lot of the really specific granular stuff and start to potentially even render out stuff next week. So it's all moving pretty fast, pretty exciting. Yeah. All right, let me see. Do I know if there are any plans for like a new difficulty level of the rainbow maps? Or Rift Rainbow Luck Charms when those return? I don't know any specifics on plans for that. I feel like it's the kind of thing that if enough people are like, hey, we would like this, then we could certainly kind of like, come up with a plan to deliver that for you. I think right now we're all pretty focused on kind of gearing up into this new project, or well, not new, but like into the kind of content production pipeline. So we're always kind of like trying to keep our eyes open for little kind of things here and there that we can add to the game, because this one's going to take a while to create. We want to make sure that it has enough kind of like there's enough for you guys to kind of run around and do to occupy the time between now and when this gets to come out. So, you know, that could be an interesting potential. So I would say kind of like, you know, put together a thread, and if enough people are kind of like excited about something like that, even giving suggestions on what could be in it, who knows? That'd be something to kind of like put out there for us. Oh, I think I missed your message. I have to scroll up. Move this over so I can actually select. Enable click through so I can actually scroll up. What did you ask? Yeah, is that one of the legendary flying islands that Ronza gets her goodies from? This one, no. No, not this island. That's all I have to say about that. All right. I feel like I've actually missed a lot. That was before the stream, talking about Rift ideas for the Tribal Isles. Pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about all the short art streams. I have not been the one that gets to schedule the meetings, so. All right. How do you get an ancient relic? Boy, there's a lot of ways, but usually it's kind of related to boss mice. They're often able to drop them. Depending on how difficult or rare the boss is, they'll drop more. But your fellow mouse hunters are probably the best to answer specifics on where you right now could go if you kind of reveal, hey, this is the stuff that I have, where I am in the game. Usually players are really awesome at helping out with that. And if you're not a part of the Discord, that's a great place to ask and get a quick answer. All right. So I'm gonna do art, I guess. All right, so right now, like, I'm not going too crazy into the detail. I've actually gone further than I intended to with a lot of the elements. But I think I have most of the kind of like slices that can kind of like sit on top. There's another one that I need to figure out somewhere it can go. That one's going to be challenging. So cleaning up a sketch. I don't need to be doing this. Don't have time to be doing this. All right. So I think what I'm going to try is showing off like how much variety could be achieved through this system, because that was one of the concerns, was that like, oh, if we put too much effort into making a robust kind of like paper doll where these elements are sitting on top, it might make the island itself less interesting looking. So I'm gonna try and go for, you know, maybe the draconic. It should be pretty interesting. So I'm just gonna duplicate this, turn that back on and hide that. It's an old layer now, I don't need it anymore. But figure I'll keep it for now. And so all I need to do is just make sure that things sit in ways that make sense. So for example, I could take this part and just kind of slide it down there so that chest can sit more comfortably. And as long as I kind of like create landings for everything, and have the planes kind of aiming or angled in ways that make sense and stuff isn't kind of overlapping awkwardly, then I think it'll work. Yeah, this is some kind of HUD concept stuff for the floating islands that we're working on right now. Still very kind of like work in progress. So, you know, a lot can kind of change from what you're seeing today, but certainly some interesting kind of stuff in the works. So I'm thinking maybe I'll flip this. It's kind of interesting that the pirate ship is like behind that element there. Kind of makes it a little bit more interactive between the pieces. I think this is the main part I don't want to overlap as much, is like this kind of, these floating rocks. I feel like they need to kind of sit in their own space more effectively. Okay. Wrong color. Here we go. So I'm going for this almost like lava rock kind of feel with these weird craggly horns kind of coming out of the ground, and it's all kind of dry and rocky, and you know, it's just kind of what I would imagine a draconic island might feel like. Maybe I'll kind of like make it more kind of like dried bone, kind of, you know, what a horn might look like if it's just kind of sitting out in the sun for forever. The dragon mice are not lava-y. That's a good point you bring up. They're much more kind of like regal in a way. To be fair, this concept was created before we even had any mice sketches, so that does kind of change things now that I think about it. That's a good point. You know, should probably, you know, actually work off of the designs that exist for those mice. Okay, let me hide that element right now. I don't know. Now I'm kind of like, should I change it? I really kind of like this aesthetic, but yeah, that's a solid question. Doesn't quite fit their aesthetic currently, so that is a problem. Yeah, the island should reflect the actual mice. More bling. Let's see. Let me actually pull up some of the mice. Sorry, just digging up the cases that I need. All right, there we go. They do have that kind of warm aesthetic, like the kind of oranges and reds do work. I think maybe I'll weave in a little bit of kind of What are the cats doing? They sound like they're wrestling in the litter box. Just squirreling out behind me. Okay. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of the reds. So actually, it isn't as far off as I thought it could be. Wow, Pika, they're crazy. All right. So yeah, I might go a little bit more kind of purple into the reds, and then yeah, maybe some gold kind of trim on things could work. Or like, instead of dried bone, more kind of brown, darker horns or something. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to put any buildings into them right now. First of all, I think that when it's kind of scaled to size, that could pose a challenge. And I kind of want to, I don't know, I just never kind of pictured it with those assets. So for now, I'm going to say nay to the buildings, but it's an interesting concept. Like, didn't even really kind of think of trying that. Okay, now I do need to make sure that this sits well where it is, so I'm going to raise this up a bit. And I should probably make sure it's at the biggest version. Pika is squirreling out like crazy. She's just ripping around the place, just biting everything and making Wash very concerned. Okay. Ooh, molten gold. That's an interesting idea. I'm almost imagining they have like gold tipped kind of islands or something like that. Don't know why they would do that, but if they're super kind of ornate and wealthy, that's just the kind of thing you do to show off, I suppose. Just capping their floating rocks with gold. They also have kind of like lots of kind of pointed angles. So like, for example, let's say the Forgotten Island, I'd probably make it all old and soft and weathered, where everything just, no sharp kind of angles because everything's so old that it's just been worn down over the years. Whereas the Draconic, they're more kind of young and aggressive, let's say. So a lot of the mice have kind of like pretty intense, sharp angles. Needs more purple. There will be purple. Don't you worry. Not everything needs more purple. If everything had more purple, then no one would have purple. Purple would cease. It's like some of the best art is actually kind of creating the sense of a color by like having everything but that color in a way, by kind of like generating its contrast. Some pretty good examples out there of just like doing color picking of kind of like really well designed images, paintings or whatnot, where basically it looks like, oh, that color right there is green or something like that, and then you actually like grab a swatch of the color and it's not at all green, it's like red, but because of kind of everything around it, it creates, your mind kind of sees it as green. Alright. How do you get an ancient relic? Go fight some bosses, and ask the MouseHunt Discord for advice on what you're able to kind of like hunt right now. That's the best way to get relics, I would say. Alright, so I kind of like the like shelf rock style for this. It feels like dry and hot, but not necessarily like a desert. Just like kind of, you know, unwelcome in a sense, you know, like it's hostile. Not that I need to kind of convey that with these characters, but you know, it looks different from other islands. Like, let's say the Hydra one, that one's probably going to look a lot more kind of comfortable and peaceful, and it'll probably have like foliage growing and kind of, you know, depending on what the actual theme of the paratype is, it should reflect it in the design. It should be pretty interesting. Yeah, this is kind of like one of the important things for the meeting today, I think, is to kind of show how much interest can still generate with these islands while still allowing them to have their own kind of unique kind of elements appearing on it. Yeah. Okay. And one of the other challenging things is the palette itself. Obviously, if we have these kind of elements that layer over top, I can't make an asset for every single island without kind of like just making so much extra work for everybody, including myself. So it'd be like this crystal growth thingy would be the same for each of the different islands. So the coloring on that wouldn't change. So I need to kind of like plan accordingly for that. That can be a bit tricky. Pika has been squirreling out this whole time. That's why Wash has been stressed.
No, he's gotta go.
Also that. She's still squirreling out. Crazy cat. Yeah, there's going to be 8 different power type islands, and then the different kind of elements that can kind of get slapped on top. So that should be pretty interesting, I hope. No. At least currently, not all. Okay. It doesn't quite work how you might be picturing it in terms of kind of traveling to the islands. The actual kind of traveling system isn't using the kind of current MouseHunt traveling. It's more of a HUD interaction to do it. But you'll see in time, and I think you'll kind of appreciate why and how it works when you get to kind of actually try it out. Yeah, I'm not sure if Dave has kind of shown stuff about this earlier. Maybe he did. Okay, he did show some dev art. Nice. That said, I still don't know what art he actually showed. I wasn't watching the stream. But yeah, effectively, there's kind of an interface where you kind of like discover these islands is kind of the idea, and then choose what one you want to travel to. So in a sense, there is all 8 of them visible to kind of like decide between what one you want to go to. But it's not going to be on like the big map kind of thing. It's in the actual kind of interface for it, or at least that's how it currently works. Okay, okay. He did show the actual board selection. That's cool. All right. On the main map, I probably, yeah, maybe I will actually have all 8 of them visible somewhere. I already know kind of where I want to put elements on the map. Actually, so when Mosu Picchu came out, I had actually drawn a thing for this, but like hid that layer, and that's just been sitting there waiting ever since Mosu Picchu to like be able to show up. That's how ready I was for this idea back then. And I had already been working on kind of gameplay for it before that time. So it's been a long time coming. I'm very excited. We're actually kind of putting this together now. So let's see how that looks. So this one I'm not super happy with the look of. I might kind of like tweak it a little more. I don't like that it's like gold necessarily. I might make it a little more kind of, I don't know, like bronze or silver or something like that. Just because I don't want it to feel like it's more of like oh, when this thing shows up, it's about getting gold from the mice. It's more about collecting a specific resource that has nothing to do with kind of like the wealth of the island. And that said, like if we want to have kind of these gold elements on this island, which kind of is cool for the dragon aesthetic itself, then it would need to kind of look different enough that it wouldn't confuse. Well, that's the thing. Making it the color of the resource is the intention, but we haven't drawn the resource. I have kind of like a vague idea of what I want it to look like. And basically, right now the concept is it's an ore that you get from the islands. Um, and we already have gems in here, and you know every area's got to have their gems, I guess. But that one's already like pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. You know, we have these cloud crystals is the name I'm giving them right now. Who knows if it'll stick? But then yeah, we have sky ore, and I think I'll make it a lot more kind of earth, kind of rock color with more kind of bands of metal through it. But yeah, I don't want to lose too much more time to try to concept that out. You know, it's not a big deal to get it for this example piece, right? It's entirely possible that what I create here could end up being approved and then go into full render production. But until that point, I don't want to, you know, go too crazy on one, you know, version of a concept. You know, need to be flexible enough to kind of try different things and see what does and doesn't work. Yeah, so this one is the element that I don't have yet. I need to kind of like find a better space for that. It's a tough one. I might be able to just shove it behind everything, kind of like how the pirate is, and that might work. So if I shove that down here, even below the pirates. Oh, it's not. It's supposed to be in the pirate. There we go. Okay. The tough thing is it's going to be difficult for it to read. I should probably dig up another concept that is, I think, uploaded. Let's see. I wish I could just like search in Planio, which is their task management tool, but the search is real bad. I don't know why, but it's terrible at actually like finding anything useful. Where is it? I wonder if the case is closed. Probably is. Aha, it was closed. That's why I couldn't find it. Okay. All right, so there's a little more purple in the this design. So I'm just trying to loosely capture what. Yeah, I gotta hide the shrine thingy. don't need to worry too much about this looking exactly like it does in the example, but that kind of works. And then I could even just do some copying, pasting, kind of just fill the sky with them. Okay, and that might work if there's kind of like an upgraded variant of that. Okay, so let's see if that works with the pirates. I'll even put it a little bit more behind them. I kind of like how they silhouette against that. It looks quite pretty, actually. Cool, 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 cool. Yeah, that's alright. I think it's fine enough for the concept anyways. A little more interesting with the gap. Cloud or Macrolite as inspiration. Ooh, like green banded. That could be nice. Interesting idea. Yeah, I think depending on what all the islands end up looking like, that could even determine what the material looks like. Just because I want to make something that stands out properly on each of the different designs. So the cloud crystals, those aren't terrible at it right now. Well, let's see what this cloud backdrop looks like with the physical island that we had. So it's like pretty powerfully kind of, it's almost overpowering those clouds. So I might kind of just try and knock them back a bit more. Just merge all that. I want to kind of bring their contrast down, I think. So like if I look at them in grayscale, this also gives me a little bit of an idea of how things are reading. And that actually makes me think that I need to kind of like take a little more space at the bottom of the island here to make sure that the ore kind of like has something to kind of stand out against. So I'm just going to knock the the intensity of the contrast down here. All right, I think that's a little bit better. Okay. And then turn the shrine back on. Yeah, that at least I've kind of like created enough contrast on its own. It has like its own little glowing background on a dark kind of surface. So no matter what it's against, it'll pop out. Whereas the crystal here, it's kind of like very bright overall, and I'm worried that on a light colored island, that's gonna start to, you know, not look as crisp and clear. So I need to kind of plan my shadows and kind of textures and darks just across all the islands with the intention of kind of having each of these things stand out appropriately. So it does kind of limit the ridiculous designs I can try and pull off for the islands, because I'm kind of having to make sure, oh, this part's dark enough that this stands out. But maybe I'll take a book out of those magical floating rocks over there and kind of give each of the important things that I do want to stand out a little bit of a glow up with, you know, built-in contrast. So no matter what it's against, it would read. And the background color might be tweaked. It might go lighter. I could actually imagine it will. So I might try that. Maybe more like that. I don't know. I don't know if it would. Kind of like that. Little gradient across an angle where the sunlight is kind of coming at it. All right, just a little thing. I'm gonna get rid of this sketch line right here. If anything, it would be a highlight kind of. Something like that. Come on. Computer's getting chunky. Okay, let's bring this all the way behind everything. Why would you put it in that layer? There we go. All right. I'm gonna go grab a quick little snack. I'm hungry. Here. Sorry, had to get some chocolate-covered almonds. Very important. So it's a big part of the floating islands, these kind of individual islands. They're kind of like what you go to play the area. But there is other elements beyond just that. But it is the main part. But there is a lot to it. Lots of things. All right. I think therefore I am. I think what I'll do is try and address the ore. I'm still not too happy with the way it looks. I think we have, let's see, got our Sky Ore, Cloud Gems, Warden, Cheese, Treasure, Pirates. Boss Loot. Don't worry about that. Power types, Boss Islands. Don't worry about that. But basically every element that I need for this concept is there. It's working, but I think it could work a little better. And I think the ore is the weakest of the batch, so I'm going to try and tweak that. And I think once I have kind of those things working, I'll be good enough to kind of show this off to the team. but at the same time, I also want to kind of like maybe get one more unique looking island to kind of like show off how kind of distinct each of them can feel and look. Show a couple variations of like, oh, what does it look like with the physical island with only this thing active, or ooh, this one has spooky pirates, you know, that kind of thing, and show like here's like a whole bunch of different kind of variations just to kind of give people a good idea of like what it could be. And I think that'll be good enough for the meeting. And that said, I only have an hour before I'm gonna go on lunch, and then there'll be the meeting right after that. So I basically have an hour to kind of get that wrapped up. So let's do this. Shadow Island will be interesting. That one's going to be challenging, too. I think I have some ideas. Sorry, these almonds are too good. I'm literally the worst person. Like, just eating with my mouth full. Or speaking with my mouth full. Can't help myself, they're too tasty. Or is nondescript. Almond Island. Good point. Chocolate coated island. I'll quickly cycle through all the islands, but they're like really, like when I was working on early prototype, I whipped these up real quick. So they're gonna change. This is the Arcane Island, you know, like that one. I don't see it staying that way, especially with the ore or the gem. Like that will just consume it. You won't be able to see that, right? This is kind of like slightly modified Draconic. Forgotten. I didn't know what I wanted for that, but I have a better idea now, so that's going to look pretty different. Hydro as well. It's cool. I'll probably actually try and keep some of these elements because it's fun. But yeah, that one's going to change. Law might not change that much. I'll definitely make it look a lot more interesting, but you know, I like the kind of desert theme, but I think I'm gonna have like steampunk inside the sand, kind of like peeking out. That could look cool. Physical's fun. Just got a giant knife sticking into an island. Why not? We'll see if that keeps. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. It's silly, but might work. Shadow, I think I'm going to change quite a bit. More purple. Purple is good. More like underlighting kind of feel, but I think I'll need to account for this big crystal here being bright and light and try and make that work. So that's going to be the challenge there. And then tactical, again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do for that, but I am going to make it much more kind of like the whole island is steampunk. You know, it's like pretty much entirely made out of the brass and stuff like that, because all the mice are like inventors and flying around, so they probably built the island completely. So I think that's pretty fun. Is it possible to have the crystal point down below the little island that has the chest? Could try that. Yeah. Something like that. Just boom, shooting at the side of it. kind of enjoy how explosive that looks. It almost has too much contrast and kind of a little bit unbalanced feeling for me. But again, like I'm kind of also, well, maybe not again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm not necessarily too keen on it being so centered. And I originally was thinking, oh, maybe it'll go here. But I also feel like maybe that's kind of, I don't know. Maybe that does work there. And then the treasure chest thingy could work here. And that's less kind of like stealing the center stage. So all the kind of like modifiers could be around the outside edges of it, I guess. Maybe that does work. Yeah, more space for islandy stuff. You're right. You're right. Okay. No, that's an interesting point. Yeah, visual circle. Like, I actually have that as a design element. Where is that? Here. And I think that, yeah, maybe I actually want to kind of use that more powerfully. Yeah, that might be the way to go. I was kind of using this circle more as a like, oh, everything of interest needs to be on the inside of that, because everything at the very edges, I feel like that needs to be the bleed of the image. But yeah, having everything kind of almost like rotating with it is actually closer to a reality than I expected. So it's almost like if this was here, right? That fits this kind of rotating shape. And if anything, maybe the chest could go here, right? You know what? You know what? You know what? You know what? I think you win a prize. Maybe this needs to kind of just shift up there. Yeah. Yeah, and then I can kind of have like a little hill kind of propping that up and showing it off a little bit more. That might have done it. That might have been the ticket. Still not super pleased with the actual ore design currently. That's my biggest kind of upset with it, but could be worse. That's an interesting idea, having that kind of like almost like lens kind of shift effect. I'll consider it. It might be a challenge to pull off, because like in this view it would be awesome. It'd look great, but then there is another view or two where the island might be visible, and it wouldn't make sense to have that element in it there. So either it's rendered in from the start and it works well for this, or I don't think that I'll be able to pull that off. I might be able to just kind of give that feeling of it with just kind of, you know, having a very light, nah, it doesn't quite do it, but yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, unfortunately. So that's just kind of the challenge of the piece. All right, so let's see. Is this almost too symmetrical in a sense? Let me see. Let's get the selection. Okay, and move that underneath. Actually, kind of like the idea of this being like thinner slabs compared to, let's say, the physical island, which might be kind of bigger, bulkier clumps of earth floating there. Let me try that out. This might interfere with where the ore needs to line up, though. Wherever that is. Yeah. Okay, well. Let's try moving the ore, or the island, to catch the ore down there. Cool. I'm picturing this as more slabs of kind of like stone sediment. As opposed to just kind of like a hunk of earth that got ripped out and launched into the sky. Back in my hometown, there's just like limestone kind of just rock everywhere. And it kind of is interesting because like there's roads cut right through it, and the walls of those, it looks kind of like this kind of like jagged wall where like there's just so many layers of the rock, and part of it dissolves out and just kind of like creates these kind of like just tons of little shelving things, and you can kind of see them like shifting and twisting and cracking. So thinking that might be kind of like a cool shape for the rock itself, is that kind of sediment. Yeah, like I feel like a really strong way to make each island feel unique is to totally change the silhouette, like the actual shapes that it's created out of defines it almost as much as kind of like, you know, with the texture of the material that it's drawn as, or color schemes or whatever. So this the like shape that I want it to have is like thin and top heavy. That's the kind of essence right there. And we are kind of looking just a little bit down at the island. Not crazy, but oh boy, I should save. It's getting real chunky. There's a lot of layers in this, but my Photoshop has been acting a little bit not awesome for the past few days. So I think I might need to update it. I think it's behind by a little bit now, and unfortunately that might be the only fix. I say unfortunately because I have it updated at the the work office, but all the hotkeys are like changed, and a couple of the tools don't work how they used to, and prefer the legacy version of them. So I was hoping I wouldn't have to actually update here, but I don't know. It's just been acting real not great. Lots of like lag and stuff when it wouldn't make sense that it would lag. Alright, so yeah, like the Hydro Island not being made out of water specifically, but more like hot springs. That's a super interesting idea. I also like the idea of there being just lots of lush foliage, kind of plant matter growing on it. Not in the way that the physical island has kind of like all that grass, but more like vines and stuff kind of hanging off of it maybe, and it looking very kind of damp, moist. Avatar vibes. Nice. Well, the thing about the mice fitting on an island of this size is it's a pretty big pirate ship back there, and it's in the background, so who knows how far away it is. Or maybe it's really close. That would actually make more sense to try and make the island a bit bigger. Yeah, the mice in MouseHunt are of varying sizes, so either you could fit a whole whack of them, or maybe not a lot. But another thing about the area is there is kind of like this idea that there's only so many mice on the island itself. So it kind of works. Didn't quite work. Just wanted to try something really quick. Yeah. No, maybe I didn't hate it after all. I just feel like it's much more interesting looking if the kind of glowing is only really visible in the shadow areas, and then the kind of areas that are in the sunlight are a little bit more washed out feeling. Kind of just has an interesting feeling. Ooh. Some heavy ideas in the chat right now. Yeah, no, we're not going to make limited edition items ever for sale. They wouldn't be limited edition if they were. At least not in the definition of MouseHunt. But as well, a reset at the 10-year mark, meaning like if you've played for 10 years, you can reset your account and like start over from scratch. That would be a lot. I don't know how many people would go for that. There's a lot of effort people have put in that I don't think they would want to lose. Talking about limited edition, have you already been looking at drawing our stuff? No. I've been super busy with kind of this stuff right here. As for our stuff, I will not give you a heads up. So take that. Haha. Yeah, you know the rules about our stuff. You already know. You know what up. You know I can't talk about that. I already give you enough spoilers and heads up with with this stuff here, so don't expect to get more out of me. Yeah, so I feel like these are pretty cool. You know, feeling the like draconic essence here. It feels very kind of dragon-like. Okay, now let's see, popping those layers on. So the crystal there, I think. Oh, hey Charlie, can you not lay on my keyboard and hit hotkeys like you always love to do? It's just not helpful. I'm sorry. Please don't ever do that. All right, sorry about that. We're gonna redraw the ore. Yes, we have 40 minutes. All right. Just gonna take a quick look at this. Varying sizes. Okay. I think if I just bump this up just a smidge there. Yeah, that can work. That can work. And then I don't think it could go above this size while still having this in the background. So that works. Alright. Alright. Now we'll also have to mess with the physical island and then maybe, just maybe, have enough time to toss another island into the mix. Might be cutting it a bit short though, so a bit tight, I suppose would be a better word for that. Cutting it a bit tight. A bit close. Yeah, I'm like, for a kind of proof of concept, going a little too far with the render, I think. Mist surrounding the island would be pretty awesome, but a challenge because of all the layering. And again, another thing about it is actually going to be viewed fairly small. Maybe at that size. So, you know, I need to try and kind of like keep the clarity where possible. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. All right, so I feel like maybe, okay, let's bring that ring back. Just copy this just in case. So I like it kind of like going up to the right like that. But then I did like it kind of coming up and over a ledge, potentially. Or should it all just grow off the side? Like, it could just do this. It is supposed to just be metal after all. Okay, and then what if we went for more... Back to laying on the keyboard. Charlie, why? Why are you like this? You're just the worst. Yeah, there's kind of like different levels of ore that can kind of spawn, I guess you could say, on the island. So I'm trying to kind of give that feel. And pirates might not have mined it because they're not miners. They pillage instead, so they wait for other mice to mine it, or hunters, or whoever, and then they just take it for themselves that way. It's more their style. Is that why keyboards heat up slightly or something? I don't know, because like Charlie just can't help herself. Like there's so many other places to lay down, but the keyboard, that's the sweet spot. I think I want to like almost try a silver looking color, but like again, like that might start to look too much like the crystal here, and then against the sky color. Maybe I just need to go a little more neutral. Need enough kind of highlight and contrast that it stands out, but it doesn't kind of just look like piles of gold or something kind of growing on the side. A steampunk tactical trap, you say? Why would we ever do such a thing? So I think I want to get more of that kind of dirt feel through it. The challenge will be, is this going to work with each of the islands that kind of come out of this? But I feel like if I start with this, I can at least kind of adapt the islands to kind of work around it. That should be okay. Many cats sit on spots such as keyboards and laptops because they are near their favorite person and can be at the center of their attention. It's true. When she does lay on the keyboard, I need to kind of like poke her and get her to move. So maybe that is the tactic. She just wants a little kind of like prod every once in a while, so she'll just flop down on the keyboard for it. But, I mean, usually, if they want our attention, they'll just come and like lay on our lap and just like live there for hours while our feet slowly die of blood loss and overheating. Okay, this is starting to feel a little bit more like some kind of ore growing out of the side of the mountain, which is working for me at least. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that ring. Yeah. All right. Remember that shape that I was talking about? Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea, having the ore behind the island layer, and then like have it kind of reveal more and more. But it technically is easier for me to put the ore directly on top, and I could paint it to look like it's a window opening, but just in terms of how many layers and sizes and mechanics of it, it would be easier to kind of just do the ore as its own layer on top. Visually, I could make it work either way, but mechanically, definitely easier to do it this way. But definitely a cool like concept, and depending on like how someone would set up an image like this, could definitely do it that way. That is totally a possibility. But the way that it's designed currently, it makes more sense to kind of use this specific way. I like that though. That's pretty cool. Let's see. So I'm going to make sure that I'm happy with the ore. So that's feeling better. I think. Okay, let's take a quick look at it with the physical island, because I think that'll be a little bit of an indicator as to if it's working or not. So, okay, obviously we need to kind of shift a couple of the elements just a little. This chunk needs to move over. Just enough to be under the gems. And one thing I could do is kind of make it fairly different from the Draconic Island in that I could actually, if I wanted to, have these, let's say, connect to each other. Yeah, that's entirely a possibility if we wanted it. Yeah, maybe I think it'll have just at least a little bit of a break in the shape, but it could be like casting shadow down onto it because it's butted right up against it. That's kind of fun. Alright, so let's try that out with the different gems and various resources. So it works with like fully grown, minimal. Yeah, I want each island to have a unique shape and essence to it. I think that'll be important for them feeling different and interesting from each other, right? So that feels a little bit more unique. Ugh. Alright. Oh yeah, the blade and the chest are overlapping in this one. That's a good point. I could just move the blade. Maybe I'll even just flip it. Originally, it used to be on the left side of the island, but as long as it's not interfering with the... Where are you? With that, which I'm going to plop some more kind of hill under, then it should be okay. So let's try that real quick. I'm just going to slap some island there. I think I'll even kind of like create a little bit more of an exposed kind of rock, maybe, in some parts, so it's not all just grassland and such. So let's see, can I just do this? Yeah, the lighting is quite different. I mean, this could actually also go like here instead. Maybe something like that. Right in the middle, it kind of works actually. Yeah, maybe this is good enough at least. All right, let's try that. Okay, and then just need to make sure there's enough behind the ore here. Yeah, it's not bad. I don't think it stands out super well, or that is, but maybe that doesn't need to. Okay. Let's try turning up the other layers. Seems all right there. Okay, maybe just punch up the ore just a little bit. I think with oranges instead of just the like more yellowy gold, that'll maybe work, because like so many of the mice have brass style kind of elements, so I want them to have that kind of, you know, metal available perhaps. Okay, so that's got a bit of contrast now and kind of stands out. I don't dislike it as much as I did at the start, so that's good. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about that. All right, in that case, I need to make the different like states for this. So I'm going to fill in the bottom of the island here a bit more. Wrong brush, that's why. All right, well, we're coming upon 1 o'clock. Didn't quite get everything I wanted to necessarily, but I think what I do have will be enough to kind of show like what kind of variety is possible, and I think I'll still have a little bit of time during lunch to kind of, you know, maybe tweak one more island really quick. I'm sorry I didn't get to do that with you. I feel like that would be a little bit more interesting than what we had done. But yeah, I feel like maybe shadow could be cool to do, or even tactical. No, tactical would be a lot of work right now. Oh yeah, get a Larry link if I can. Alright, it's my lunch alarm. Oh, Charlie, get off the keyboard, please. Please. Oh, that's an old Larry link. I should have asked for one earlier. Whoops. Okay. Oh yeah, one of the things that I wanted to do as well is kind of like just cut away at this to make the different sizes of it. I want to make it obvious enough. That feels a little better. Okay, and then let's see. I almost feel like that one should have been the smallest, and then do one bigger than what we have. All right, saving. Oh, yeah, Michelle's making a Larry link. Sweet, okay. Copy link and paste. All right. So I gotta make another coffee and have some lunch before the meeting, and then actually like compose a pile of these images. So I better be going. But again, sorry it's such a short stream. I know of recent they've all been pretty short. So hopefully in 2 weeks' time I'll stream again and we'll actually have like a full day of working on some cool character perhaps. I certainly have some projects I would like to do with you guys. Hopefully this was interesting. It was a little bit kind of more on the behind the scenes of kind of like what HUD development can look like at times. It's a little bit kind of more illustrated than it often is at this stage, but we've also worked out a lot of specifics for it, so it's kind of fun to be at this at this point already. Yeah, I hope you guys had fun. Thank you so much, as always, for hanging out. And I shall see you guys next time. Have a good weekend. Happy hunting, and stay safe, everybody. I shall see you probably in 2 weeks. Okay? All right. I'll catch you later, everybody. Bye for now.